Hello, and welcome back to the Nourish with Purpose podcast. It's Bailey, and I hope you're having a great Thursday or whenever you're listening to today's episode. I am so excited to jump into today's episode for many reasons, but one being you guys really did not hold back when it came to wellness trends or things that just kind of drive you crazy or that you think are kind of a hoax. I asked this over on my Instagram on Tuesday, and I really just wanted you to unleash whatever you thought. And on today's episode, I'm going to say if I agree with that, kind of what my personal opinion is, and I don't know, just kind of go from there, kind of see what word vomit comes out of my mouth, because some of these topics, it's really hard for me to hold back and not just unleash all my feelings and thoughts. So I might just do that. Also, this is to preface by saying, if you are doing any of these things and they are working for you, amazing. I do think, and obviously my whole practice is built around not everything is one size fits all. There might be some supplements that work well for you that don't work well for other people. There might be certain products that you use that don't work well for other people. The placebo effect is real. If you look at research, I mean, it's not a hoax. I don't know if that's how you would even describe it, but if you think something's working, your mind is powerful enough to convince you it's working and you feel the benefit. So I don't think that if you're doing some of these things, that you're doing things wrong. However, I just felt like a majority of people said some very similar things. And I think it's just really interesting to see that and then also give my personal opinion, maybe even how I would address that with a client. So you can kind of see how my brain processes and works when I look at different things, trends, everything, and all the noise that is so loud, and how I just like hone in on what's really important. Before we get into that, let's do a little catch up because I do feel like I have some things to update you on. I know I shared a couple weeks ago that I am starting a coffee cart, something that is in addition to what I'm already doing, not taking the place of my business. Everything is going well. It might seem silly to want to add something else in. However, I just really felt like that outlet, the timing just made sense and it felt right, and I'm so excited. So not that I need to explain myself, but I do think there's probably some like, why are you adding something else in? And that's why. So with my coffee cart, I want to backtrack and say how much research I did on coffee machines, how many times I had all these different espresso machines in my cart before I pressed purchase. Like I just would exit out of the website and like, no, I can't do it. I can't make a purchase that large. If you don't know, an espresso machine can run anywhere from a good espresso machine. The Breville's fine. I got mine at Home Goods for like $400, but typically I think like retails for $1,000. That's an okay espresso machine. If you're going to a coffee cart and they're using a Breville, I just wouldn't. They're not serious about coffee. I'm going to be honest. Like if that is your business is coffee and you're using a Breville, I don't know what you're doing. If you want a good coffee maker, you're spending anywhere from like $2,500 to $48,000 on a coffee machine. It's insane. Like if you go to a coffee shop and they're pulling quad shot. So if they have, quad. Now I'm second guessing myself, guys. But if they're pulling 4 shots, that machine is probably $48,000. And I know some coffee shops around here have like 2 of them at every location. It's insane to me how much people are spending on these coffee or espresso machines. So like I'm saying, I didn't want to spend a lot of money. The one that I really wanted was way too expensive. So I'm like, okay, maybe if this goes well, we can build up to that machine. For right now, I was more in the lower end of that range. So I'm online. I'm like, okay, I'm finally going to add this to my cart. Press purchase, everything's great. The espresso machine gets here. I share about what I'm doing. It's all out in the open. And my dad and I go to plumb the machine on Monday. So this is my Monday morning, not the way you want to start the day after Easter. And we're like, I just don't understand how we're supposed to like be able to put this like box in. Now I'm getting too technical, but there's a box where you could put water and then it's not direct pump. It's using the water that's in that reservoir to pull your shot. And that's the machine I had. I'm like, I'm not sure how we're supposed to like plumb this so that we have automatic water come from like these 6-gallon jugs. And that's when it sunk in that I ordered the wrong espresso machine. Now this is no like, oops, darn it, mistake. This is like oh, that's kind of a big deal. That's the most expensive part of this whole endeavor. And I ordered the wrong thing. So that in and of itself was just not how I wanted to start my day. And then prior to that, I got a flat tire on the way to my parents' house to help figure out the plumbing for my machine. And it was just too much. So I obviously panicked. I'm like, what am I going to do? Now, I don't have the right espresso machine. I need this one, and it's on back order till July. And I didn't even know that at that time. I was like, okay, let me return this. I have 30 days. I can do an exchange. So I get on the helpline. I'm like, okay, we're going to exchange this espresso machine for the direct plum machine that I want. Let me just backtrack too by saying I'm not stupid, but the machine is called the Luca A53 Mini. In parentheses, one says direct plum and one says nothing. So here I'm just thinking like, oh, they maybe have a new model. That's why it has like this black box on the front. No, it's a completely different machine. So I get on their help support at Clive, shout out to them, and they're like, yep, you can exchange the machine, but just so you know, the one you're wanting is on back order until July. Well, that was not going to work for me. So I, in a panic, get on a different website, and I'm like, okay, I can get this ordered. It'll be here in 2 to 3 days. Perfect. I order it. I get an email from that website. In all red caps, it says, just so you know, this product will be shipped out on 05-08, May 8th. That's not going to work. So I get on and I message them. I'm like, I need to cancel this order immediately. No response. So I get to their website. I need to cancel this order immediately. Mind you, the money's already left my account. So I'm panicking. I'm like, okay, am I ever going to get this money back? Is this gone? Is this a wash? Luckily, they canceled that order. So I go back to Clive because that's where, honestly, they have the best of everything, and I just really trust them. I go back to Kelly, my friend Kelly at this point, because I've talked to her and kind of dumped on her my whole situation. Get on helpline. Okay, Kelly, what would this machine be similar to the Luca A53 Mini? She's like, yeah, that machine would be very similar, but it doesn't have a bottomless portafilter and a reserve or a espresso. What is it called? Something reserve. So I'm like, okay, have any customers complained about not having either of those? I didn't really care about the bottomless portafilter. That didn't matter so much to me because that just means like when you pull the shot, you're going to have a bottom of it. So it has like those two lips that go into like the shot versus having nothing, and then you can like actually see the extraction. I'm like, okay, I don't really care about that. I just need this machine. So she's like, yep, you can still exchange it. You're just going to have to show a receipt of you dropping your current espresso machine off at UPS. So today, on Wednesday, my husband went to Grand Island this morning and dropped it off at UPS, got me my receipt. Very sacrificial of him to do that, and all is well. My espresso machine should be here in the next week, and then we can get plumbing all set up. Not only that, but I ordered the wrong accumulator. So now I'm just getting too nitty gritty, and you probably don't care, but I'm just gonna dump on you anyway while you're here. So the accumulator is really just like an extra pump to increase like the intensity of the water. So I have a pitcher rinser, which is, if you've ever seen it, it's like a little spout and it has this thing that spins, and you put the thing that you're steaming your milk with, that pitcher, over that, and it cleans it up super well. I have one of those. And then my espresso machine is also going to be run on the same water filter, pump, and water softener. So I really needed this, but the fitting for this, because I know nothing about plumbing, too large. So I had to send that back and get one that was smaller with a female something or the other that my dad told me to order. So hopefully in the next week or 2 weeks, when you hear from me again, everything will be dandy. The reason why this brings any panic is because I need to get my cart inspected before I pop up anywhere, and I have an event scheduled on the 3rd. Fingers crossed that I'm hoping to be able to make it to. If I don't make it to it, not the end of the world. I know I put that pressure on myself for literally no reason, but I thought it'd be a really good trial. And then the week before that, I'm hoping to host kind of an event, nothing crazy, but have friends, family, anybody who's interested come and just let me kind of like trial and error this whole process. So if that's you, message me. I'd love to have you. If everything is all set up, want to just have kind of an event to kickstart this off. Want to make sure everything's running well, so when I'm setting up somewhere, I don't have a bunch of issues. We want to work out all the kinks. So that was what my Monday looked like. And then the flat tire on top of that was just something in and of itself. And then what else happened that day? I just remember telling Nathan and my dad, like, I'm just ready to go back to bed today. Like, I shouldn't have woken up this morning. I should have stayed in bed. I'm going to stay in bed until tomorrow. And I also think too, I had a very full week of client calls. Such a blessing. Love that. There's nothing that makes me happier than that. But when something like that starts on Monday, I feel like you just feel a little off for a couple days, or honestly a full 24 hours. So we got all that fixed. Everything is fine. I'm feeling good at this point, but it was a whole ordeal. Other updates, obviously Easter was on Sunday, and so Oliver had his first egg hunt. Last year he was just kind of a blob, so he can go hunt for any Easter eggs. So this year he got to hunt. My grandma always does like an Easter egg hunt, and it was fun to watch that and just spend time with family. And honestly, over the last couple of weeks, I feel like that's a huge chunk of it. Life is just moving and grooving, but I feel like we found a good groove. Oliver is at a good age where we can play, we can get outside, he can walk, thank goodness. So I don't feel like my back and my arms are breaking quite as much. And yeah, that's really, really what life has been like. I did also want to say, I'm not going to link anything below, but on the next episode that I release, I am releasing a workout plan. Now I did this probably a month and a half ago, and I kind of dropped the ball this month. It was supposed to be released a couple weeks ago, but that just didn't happen. The program was finished. I just needed to record all the exercises so that you have examples and know what to follow. But it's going to be kind of a hybrid program. The foundational program is the one we did. It was a 10-week program. Now we're entering into a program that's I would say much higher intensity. I've done it the last 3 days, and I'm feeling a little sore, but in the best way. I always want to trial a program for an entire week or longer before I ever release it to anybody, because I want to make sure it's good. I want to make tweaks if I can, and just make sure that you're getting the best of the best. So if you've been waiting for that, this is kind of my formal announcement. It's coming, and you will have access to it in a couple of weeks. So not this Sunday, but the next is when you can look for that either on social media. I'll be posting about it, or on the podcast. I will link it in the description. Like I said, in a couple of weeks. I had a couple people message me. Honestly, a few people messaged me. They're like, hey, wasn't something supposed to be released? I'm like, I dropped the ball. And I think that's just life, honestly. I feel like I hold myself to such a high standard, and I hold other people to a really high standard, and there's good and bad parts of that, right? Of like, I just can't show up 112% in every single area and for every single person. So I'm really learning to be at peace with that. Also, if you don't hear from me for a couple of weeks, or I don't have a podcast episode, know that I'm thinking about it. It's just not in my capacity at that time. But I'm so glad to be here talking to you today, yapping, chatting with you. Today, we're just going to jump. I know I've yapped for 13 minutes, and now we're jumping into the bulk of today's episode. But I really wanted to spend some time on these, because you so thoughtfully wrote in things that you think are a hoax, or don't think people should be doing, or you think don't actually work like people are advertising they work. So we're going to start here. Had a lot of you write in, but some are the same. So the first one, probably the one I saw most consistently, was vibration plates. Now I have to agree with this one, you guys. If you have a vibration plate and you spent over $200 on one, props to you. Could not be me. I don't dislike them. I think some people use them and they like them. Mostly I think it's because people want to stimulate a bowel movement in the morning, early on in the morning. So by standing on that, you are increasing blood flow, the flow of lymph in your body. So I do think it's probably doing that for you. However, what you could do instead is go outside for a 5 to 10 minute walk after breakfast, and you'd probably have the same response. Hate to say it, but it's free. I am all about free things you can do instead of buying things to do. And vibration plates are probably number one on my list as well. Something I do not think is necessary. Something that if you go outside for a walk, have your morning, a warm beverage in the morning before you eat breakfast. I do lemon ginger water with a little bit of salt. And then I will eat breakfast about 10 minutes after that. Try to move my body. Definitely not hopping on a vibration plate, not always going for a walk, but you can move around, and that should happen. You should have bowel movement after doing those things, and they're free. Next one was parasite cleanses. Could not agree more. People that are selling you a cleanse, I shouldn't say they don't have your best interest at heart, because they probably do, but that's just something I do not agree with. I don't agree with cleanses, and I don't agree with detoxes. I think most people who have a parasite are probably already susceptible to illness or exposure to other things. Their body is weak in a sense, and it needs to be built up. It doesn't need to be completely wiped. Everybody, and if you want to listen to actually an episode on parasites, because I do not know a bulk of it, but if you listen to the Testimony podcast, Lyndon McKay, she, that's what it will say underneath the title of the podcast, or Lyndon Hogan, she has an episode about parasites, and I do think it is worth the listen. Now, I do not ever do a full parasite protocol with clients. I think if we're supporting the body well, things like that will remove as needed. Unless you are in a different country and you come back and you are extremely ill because you drank contaminated water, maybe then a cleanse is helpful. But I have to say, in 2023, 3 years ago, I was guilty of doing parasite cleanse because it was all over TikTok. You're supposed to get this certain type of like worm bark herbal dropper that would remove all these parasites from your stool, or you would see them in your stool. I never had anything come back. I think when we point to things like parasites, heavy metals, mold, okay, I'm going to nix that. I do think there is so much validity to the mold. But if we look at like heavy metals, mycotoxins, parasites, in most instances, it's because there's an organ that is blocking the body up, or there is a weak organ, oftentimes like liver, adrenals, kidneys, that need support versus you just cleansing your body from parasites. I think we are almost like neglecting the foundations. 90% of people are neglecting the foundations. Eating enough, drinking mineral-rich water, moving your body, seeing the sun, getting outside, sleeping well, supporting circadian rhythm. Like there's all these little tools that are free that should be coming in first before we do any sort of cleanse or detox. And if that still does not resolve the issue, maybe something more severe is necessary. Maybe like an enema would be necessary, but I don't think like an oral take a product cleanse is ever really that necessary. I will say when I do blood work, how I was taught to read blood work, we can see patterns of parasitic activity. There will be clients where I'll see, maybe some parasites come back. I used to be a little bit more big on like telling that to people. At this point, there is always so much more that we need to focus on than saying, hey, you've got parasites, because that is not the first place that I want to start with clients. I know for some practitioners, it is the first place they start. They kind of assume that everybody has parasites and we need to address the parasite issue. That's not how I roll. Like I said, the foundations are what we need to do first. Getting so nitty-gritty with diet, making sure our body is rebuilt to a point where we are not susceptible to bacterial, fungal, viral infections, parasites, things like that. Next one. I don't think it's a scam, but I would love to hear you chat about vibration plates. Okay, yeah, just read that one now. Yeah, that's my thought. Go outside for a walk. Do some, like, if you look up like traditional Chinese medicine, like lymph flow practices, you can really get the fluids in your body moving and grooving, or bring warmth to the body, bring heat to the body. That stimulates activity. The body works more efficiently. Cold slows the body down. So if you're starting your morning with an iced coffee and then having a smoothie on the way to work, your body is slowing down. Your metabolism is then affected. We want to bring warmth to the body. Warm drinks, warm foods that you have to chew, not just sip, and have that be part of your routine instead. Greens powders. I do agree. I kind of think it depends on the type of greens powder. I know for me, even postpartum, nutrient deficiencies are more common. Maybe for you during pregnancy, nutrient deficiencies are definitely more common during pregnancy, postpartum. Greens powders can be helpful if you're struggling to eat enough. I would always gravitate towards like a microgreens powder, but if you're looking at like an AG1 that everybody and their mom talks about, I don't think it's a bad product. I don't think it's necessary for everyone. And I never, ever, ever think that anything is necessary long-term when it comes to supplements. Unless you don't have a gallbladder, and you need something like ox bile to actually help your body break down fat, that's a different situation. But if you are just like pretty normal, I should say you're not normal if you don't have gallbladder, right? But if you have had like no major health issues, there's not a lot of supplements that you need to be on forever. And greens powder, I feel like AG1 kind of advertises as like, do this every single day and you're going to be healthy and fit. And that's just not the case. AG1 powder, let's just all eat a bowl of broccoli. Yep, I would agree with that. Let's eat some cooked vegetables, get your greens in. If you're struggling to actually physically eat food, we need to address boundaries and your schedule, because at some point your body's going to communicate that it's on E, running on E, and it won't be able to function there. And that's when I see the most chronic health issues follow. So we have to get ahead of it. That's what preventative medicine is. That's what I do. I'm preventing you from health issues in the future. Even if nothing right now is persistent and you can wake up in the morning, not eat breakfast, have an iced coffee, not work out, not build muscle, and your body's fine on paper, blood work looks fine, we have to think a little bit more about that. Like, what's your body gonna be functioning like when you're hitting menopause? Are you eating enough to support pregnancy? There's things like that we have to pay attention to. And if you don't have the time, and honestly, I don't feel like clients tell me that anymore, maybe because I just don't believe that statement. Yes, some people are busy. Everybody's busy. It's what do you make a priority? And if you don't make eating well a priority, then no, you're probably not going to eat a bowl of broccoli. But I do think that should be one area of your life that you do make a priority. Next one, GLP-1s. Now, I saw this a lot, and I do think this is a difficult conversation because I want to be very sensitive around this, but also share my opinion. And what I'm sharing with you is exactly what I would tell a client. I have clients that are on GLP-1s. That's not something that I'm here to criticize. I think there are benefits when it comes to maybe people who have had this, I don't want to say obsession, but maybe had like that food noise for a long duration of their life. They never had that shut it off signal. Their body never told them they were full, and they just felt like they could eat and eat and eat, and their body never communicated that with them. I think there's a lot that could have gotten done or been addressed before getting on a GLP-1, but that is where some people find themselves. Sometimes, ignorance is bliss. Like, we don't know what we don't know. We maybe could have done something before that point, but we didn't know that. And so now we're at a point where we need this. I do think it's being abused, definitely. And I really think other people, the people taking them, are not being educated on what they're actually doing. So I will see, and this is kind of when clients come to me and I tell them, like, I will help you to the best of my ability, but there are some things structurally, internally that are happening because you're on this that I won't be able to help you fix, okay? Let me give you an example. If we think about our digestive system, our body should be able to communicate to us when it's hungry, and it should be able to communicate to us when we're full. Now, if we eat really fast, if we eat distracted, if we eat on the go, our body will not really ever give us that full signal. So that's something, like I said, could be done earlier on. But if you are taking a GLP-1 and you're like, yep, that's me, I've never had a full signal. Something about this that I also see follow is low stomach acid production and leaky gut or irritable bowel syndrome symptoms, or just like really major digestive symptoms. They're bloated, they're constipated, they're having issues in that area. Well, what we know about GLP-1s is they slow things down. They slow your body down in how it breaks down food, so that food is actually sitting in your stomach and your intestines longer. That's why you're not as hungry. It's not because your body is like, nope, we're shutting off the signal that you're not hungry. It's physically making it difficult for you to eat any more food, right? Your intestines are full of food. So what happens when that food sits there? It ferments. We can see things like candida, bacterial overgrowths come from being on things like this because that food is sitting there and it's fermenting. Your gas might smell like broccoli, really sulfur-like. It's just not able to move through you efficiently. So if you're constipated or you lack bowel movements and you're like, oh, I don't know what's going on, or I just need to take more fiber. Yes, you can take more fiber. That should help with regularity, but the root issue is you're consuming something that is slowing your body down. Like I said, do I think maybe microdosing GLP-1s if you are wanting to lose weight in a have a supportive way to lose weight? I think that can be helpful in some instances. I do not think that if you are a little bit overweight that's something you should be getting on, because you will likely be on that for the rest of your life. And I know, listening to this, if you are struggling with weight or that's something you've continuously struggled with, I have not had an extreme fluctuation, but I know my first year of college, I gained 35 pounds, right? And to me, that was uncomfortable. I'm 5'4". I've always been very active. It felt like out of the blue why my body was like holding on to weight. And then as I was able to learn and really look at diet, look at what my body specifically needs, I was able to assess like, oh, I'm eating distracted. I'm eating low quality food. I'm exercising, but I'm not really burning that many calories when I exercise, but I'm eating 3,000 calories. And I didn't even know that, like had no awareness of how many calories I was eating. So there's a lot of situations where, yes, it can be helpful. There's a lot of situations where I think it's being abused. Yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'm going to wrap this up on. I really like to be transparent with clients is I'm not judgmental. If you want to be on something like this, just know that what we're able to do is limited because you're on something like this. And I really think it's up to the people prescribing this to be communicating with their clients what's going on. But that conversation is in most cases not happening, or people are going to med spas and they're getting it from nurse practitioners that are prescribing it because they're able to make a lot of money off of it, but not giving you full disclosure on what's going on. It gets really shady really quickly. All right, next one, blindly consuming random vitamins and supplements. Could not agree more, which is why I do functional testing and which is why I honestly don't work with a lot of people if they're not doing functional testing. I don't think I have a single client that I'm working with right now that has not done either HTMA or blood work. The reason being is I want to see what's going on inside of your body instead of guessing, because it's very likely that for most of your life you've guessed. I would guess like, oh, what do I think I need? Well, everybody else is taking this. Let me take it. Let me give it a try. Oh, it didn't work after a week. Yeah, I don't need it anymore. And it goes to my graveyard of supplements. I do not want that to happen. And I honestly don't want you to even have to be taking a lot of supplements. How I work with clients is how can we do this with food? Supplement as needed. Sometimes in the beginning, this looks like more supplements than I would prefer because your body's depleted. But with time, as we add in zinc-rich foods, iodine-rich foods, selenium-rich foods, my hope is that you don't have to be on a lot of things or anything long-term. Even a prenatal, I will say, like, I did not take a prenatal for most of my pregnancy. I did everything with food, and then I would take PC by Body Bio. That was the other supplement I would add in. Not saying you need to, but that's what I would take along with mineral drops and electrolytes. And I felt great. Honestly, I had 3 weeks where I didn't feel great, and I knew it was because I was under eating because I didn't feel good, and it's just kind of like that vicious cycle. But I don't think we all need to be taking 100 different things. And if you go to a practitioner, doctor, somebody, and they're like, hey, yeah, you need to be on like these 8+ supplements, I would honestly turn around, walk out the door, and contact somebody else. That is probably that's really how passionate I am about that. If they are telling you need all those supplements, they are not willing to take the time to address your diet. That's just facts, right? Unless there's a chronic issue happening that is so out of your control that they really think all these supplements are going to help, it is not necessary. I can't really think of a client that I've put on more than 4 or 5. Maybe I have. Really try not to go over 4. Okay, protein powder. Give me one person who loves the last sip of a protein shake. I agree. I also have a graveyard of protein shakes because I've tried them and clients have loved them. So I've tried them and they're all disgusting. And I also think I'm looking for a very niche protein powder. I'm looking for a beef protein isolate protein powder, not made with monk fruit, not made with stevia. Really hard to find the ones without monk fruit. I've seen some with coconut sugar, but they still have monk fruit. So that is one. I'm going to try probably the Flav City because I've heard great things about that. I don't think it's a beef protein isolate powder though. And that's kind of the holdup because your body's only only absorbing such a very small percentage of like a plant or a whey protein. Whey is higher than plant, but whey is dairy. I don't do dairy. Beef protein isolate powder, you absorb like a pretty high percentage of that. But ultimately, eat enough protein from whole foods. Your body knows how to break that food down if you're bloated and uncomfortable and your diet is full of protein shakes, protein bars, things like that. You're not going to feel good because that's not how your body was designed to break protein down. And your body's probably not absorbing that much of the protein. If you're a woman and it's over 20 to 30 grams of like a supplemental protein, your body can't absorb any more than that. Really not over 20 grams. So something to remember. Actual obsession with perfect wellness. I simply cannot. That stress makes you sick. Yeah, I would agree. I often will tell clients, okay, are the habits we're adding more stress than benefit? It's like the exact verbiage. I ask a client, is this causing more stress than benefit? If I'm telling you to make sure your morning routine looks almost ideal every single day, I don't want it to be so unrealistic that you are defeated before your feet even hit the floor. It needs to be realistic, it needs to be attainable, but it needs to be supportive. And so some clients, yeah, that's a faster process. Others, it's a little bit slower. There's no right or wrong. I would rather it take longer to adapt to habits, but you're consistent for a lifetime versus implementing everything for 6 months and then I contact you in a couple weeks and you're like, yep, I'm already not doing that stuff. So yes, stress is the root cause of inflammation. So if we think about emotional stress, I see that more than anything else is that emotional stress. I mean, I think we're all stressed, but stress then leads to inflammation. It leads to lower stomach acid production. It leads to digestive issues. It leads to constipation. There's a laundry list of things that stress leads to, especially with HTMA, being able to identify your metabolic type, how fast or slow your body's utilizing the fuel that you give it, and what state your body's functioning in most often, I think is very alarming. And most people are like, yeah, that checks out. I've been stressed for the last 3 months straight. I'm like, yep, your body is dominantly in fight or flight. So we need to figure out how to get out of that because yes, there's all these symptoms showing up, but if we're not addressing stress, it's really hard to move past that. Okay, another vibration plate. Parasite cleanses on here again. Probably just buying every new product when you don't have the foundations down. Again, could not agree more to this. Foundations. I work with this with clients. If you don't know what the foundations are, message me. Let's talk through them because the foundations are the most underdone and I'll be honest, I will have clients come to me and they are not consistently ovulating if they're focused on preconception health. And we start looking at their day of eating or drinking and they're drinking like maybe 6 ounces of water and every other fluid is like a caffeine source or a carbonated source. That's not water. And so I'm like, I know this is basic and this is not what your OBGYN would tell you if you were having issues with ovulation. This is what I'm telling you is you're not drinking enough water, so your body's not able to do what it needs to do. We need water for ovulation to occur and for our body not to feel in a constant state of stress. We need minerals, we need water. That's one example, but I do see it often. And it's like, I think sometimes people think it needs to be more than that, right? Like there has to be something more that's wrong with me. Most of the time it's because you're not doing the foundations. Even if you have the most advanced protocol, the most advanced routine, if you're not drinking water, getting good sleep, eating enough food, eating good food, moving your body, eating enough protein, I know I'm missing things, managing stress, setting boundaries. If you're not doing those things, like it's really hard for me to move past that. Next one, another drinking greens example, AG1, colostrum for adults. I agree with this. I think it is weird that we're all consuming colostrum as adults because it's supposed to support our immune system, right? Like Armra colostrum. I think you can tell a lot by when things get pushed at a very large scale, right? So Armra colostrum, for example. I don't think that everything that's popular is a bad product, but I'm very skeptical when they're charging me $45 for 30 servings of colostrum, which is the byproduct if you don't know what colostrum is, it's what comes out of the mother cow before the milk comes in. So sometimes this can be unethically sourced. Cowboy colostrum is an example as well. I'm not name dropping these to be like, don't buy these products, but I do just think it's weird that that's what we've decided is ideal for our immune system. Just think it's weird because yes, it's very supportive for baby. So as a mother, when I was breastfeeding, honestly, I didn't even know much about breastfeeding. I felt like I didn't know what to expect, but colostrum comes in, or you have colostrum first, and then that's before your milk comes in. Now the colostrum is super calorie dense, nutrient rich, mineral rich. What that's doing is it's giving your baby who is just in your belly, literally living off of you, you're giving them fuel that's going to last them until your milk comes in. So like I said, usually super high in fat content. It supports their immune system as they're out in the open, exposed to what we're exposed to, their immune systems. We need to support them. That's why I'm so pro breastfeeding. And I think if it's what you want to do, there's a way to make it happen. Again, in most cases, that colostrum is like so needed, but your body as the mother is producing the colostrum, and everything in that is what your baby needs, right? That's how the baby and the mother are able, like, there's communication there. The saliva from the baby signals to you as a mother's body what needs to be within that product. Now I know you can sometimes like pump colostrum. Now we're really getting into it, but before you actually have a baby, that to me is like, I was not at that time. I just didn't even know what was going on. So I did not do that. So I don't know how accurate that is, but I do think waiting until you've had the baby to do that can be really helpful for other reasons. But if you think about that, like the mother calf doesn't know what we as humans, not cows, need. So I just don't believe that it's really that nutrient rich for us, because what they're creating is intended for the calf, not intended for us. So I don't think it's necessary. I also know there's a lot of fillers in colostrum, not usually the most pure. They do flavors. They just zhuzh everything up to make you want to buy it and have like a fun drink. And I don't think it's necessary. I know that opinion is probably different. I know at some points, like I did probably recommend this to people when we were looking at gut health. My opinion has definitely changed as I've looked more into it, which is also why always do your own research. Even someone like myself, if I'm telling you something as a client and you're like, I don't know, like I'm not fully on board, please do your own research and like bring up your contradictions to me. Like I want communication and I want to learn more and kind of expand what I know, what I believe, and not just follow trends either, because I know I'm guilty of that in other ways. Cold plunges, never again, those aren't for me. I would agree. I also think if you're a reproductive age, cold plunges are not ideal. You want to be keeping the body warm. A warm body is a fertile body, so we want to just bring warmth internally to the body. We want to bring heat to the body, not blast it with cold every single morning, taking a cold shower. I just wouldn't. If you, obviously that's more of like if you're wanting to conceive within like 6 to 12 months, I wouldn't. Other than that, I think it can be helpful for sure. Men thrive off of this. I think it's a great way for them to, have an endorphin hit maybe. I think for me, I live in a climate where we are cold 5 months, 6 months out of the year, that if I don't have to be cold, I'm not going to be cold. My shower will never be cold. I would rather like singe my skin instead of being cold in a shower. Next one. Somebody just said, I'm so excited to hear. Okay, vegan and vegetarians. Now I think if this is what you firmly believe and you have a lot of ethical, moral issues with meat or animal products, more power to you. I do just think from a deficiencies perspective, you are probably depleted. You're probably depleted in iron and copper and zinc and selenium. Well, not selenium because that would be in nuts. I just think you're probably really depleted. Unless you're eating a lot of food and you're eating a lot of protein-rich food. It is so much harder to get adequate protein from beans than like a steak or even a pound of hamburger. So that's something where you just have to really, really know what to consume, not just going to Trader Joe's and buying everything that says vegan or vegetarian because it's healthy. Vegan and vegetarian foods are not more healthy. It's a selling point. It's a way to market. It's a way to appeal to people who think that those words, those buzzwords are healthy. I also don't fall for the whole organic thing. Ultimately, like a banana is better than a Snickers bar. So even if the banana is not organic, eat that over a Snickers bar. There's just pieces like that where they just try to sell to you, or they'll label like a loaf of bread as vegan. Or I shouldn't even say that, because yeah, there might be eggs in a loaf of bread, or as vegetarian or whatever it is. It's like, well, that wouldn't have it anyway. Or a potato is gluten-free. Like, yeah, potato's not going to have gluten. There's no wheat in a potato, right? But there's all these phrases that they use to sell, and I think it's become a selling point. And I just think you have to work really hard to get enough food when you're vegan or vegetarian. If, like I said, it's an ethical, moral issue for you, I understand that fully. You're probably having to work so hard to hit enough calories, enough protein every day, which is where I don't think it's best for everyone. I also don't think us eating meat is ruining the population. I saw a reel actually came up on my page, and this doctor was talking about how most people everybody should be vegan because it's so much better for the population, but most people don't have the self-control to not eat meat. And then he said, and I would be one of those people. I'm like, then why are you telling us that we need to not eat meat if that's not you, right? So practice what you preach. I firmly believe that. Okay, next one, GLP-1s, mouth tape, vibration plates. Already addressed the two. Mouth tape. I think I disagree with this one. I've really agreed with most of these. I think I disagree only because I think breathing from your mouth is so disgusting. And like sleeping next to somebody who's like you can feel their warm breath on your face. Like, I just think that's really gross. So I don't remember to use mouth tape often, but when I do, I wake up and I do feel clear-headed and I feel like I have more energy. It has to do, I don't know all the science behind it, but it has to do with like breathing in through your nose, breathing out through your nose. I know sometimes I know people will do this like when they're working out, they'll do mouth tape to also utilize like nostril breathing instead of mouth breathing. Oral health reasons, I know it's really good. If you struggle with like tonsil stones, or you struggle with like waking up in the morning having awful breath or like a coated tongue, you're probably a mouth breather. I do think it can help to mouth tape. It's one of those things where it's like, have we been using it for hundreds of years? No. Is it necessary? No. I personally just think like mouth breathing is a little gross. So I do like mouth tape. Do I have any other ones? I hit them all. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that I would say in addition to this. I really don't think so. I would say if you're taking anything away from this, my number one trend that I think is so annoying is when people sell you every single supplement on the market and make you think that you need it because you just don't. Activewear, I guess this would be an area too. Like, you're advertised to, and again, like, I'm so guilty because I do work with Fabletics. That is why I get monthly packages in the mail. And I do wear Fabletics. I do like Fabletics, but like that polyester product, right? You're putting plastic on your skin and trapping in heat. Not the best for you. Your skin's not breathing. I don't think polyester is great, but all these different companies like Daily Drills or Acta, Lululemon, they're all selling you like the same product. You could buy the CRZ yoga version on Amazon and it's probably going to last the same amount of time. Like, I just don't think if you're buying polyester, you're buying polyester. I would look for cotton. I really like Indigo Luna. Actually, you're going to be paying more, but you can get 95% cotton, 5% spandex apparel, like to work out in, and your skin can breathe, your parts can breathe. I do think that's just a better option, but I know we're sold all these pretty colors of things that we all need. Another one would be, I do think electrolyte powders do kind of fall into this category because you can just buy salt, put it in your water, or mineral drops. However, you don't necessarily always know the exact amount of like sodium, potassium, chloride, or calcium. Yeah, I think I covered them. And magnesium that you're getting. So that is where like having electrolyte packets are great. I've tried a lot. I've hated a lot. I've liked a few. So just one of those things of like, sometimes it is that trial and error, seeing if it's worth it or not. But yeah, I really feel like that's kind of like all my thoughts on that. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Let's go ahead and close today's episode in prayer. Dear Lord, just thank you for today, the opportunity to connect and just get a lot of opinions. I pray that whoever's listening leaves with just like a push to do their own research and dig into their own beliefs and really question why they do what they do in a way that's positive and uplifting. I just thank you for the opportunity to talk openly and what this platform has done in a sense of just connected me with women who are seeking support and guidance. I pray that they continue to seek out a relationship with you as well. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. So if you're interested in following along with my life outside of the podcast, you can find me at Nourish with Bailey on Instagram. My email is always in the description. I am currently, I think I might still have some slots open for April for HTMA testing, blood work, or my preconception plan, which I know I talked about on the episode a couple weeks ago, which is really just preparing your body for pregnancy, utilizing testing, giving you a game plan for you and your spouse if they're interested in tagging along with you on this. And we just deep dive into what we can do to optimize your health for like one of the most special times. So if you are wanting any more info or you want info before ever committing to anything, fill out the discovery call link, which is on my website. Let's get on a call. Let's talk through things. No pressure, but just want you to feel confident in your decision and want to get to know you more ultimately. All right. So with that, I will talk to you again next week. Nope, wrong. I will talk to you in a couple Thursdays. Bye.